all the Zomboid skills, basically in the order of how the game lists them. But I do want to talk about the general state of Build 42 crafting really quick. I think it's a bit bare bones. There needs to be more little stuff, like being able to glaze pottery different colors, or missing recipes here and there. And in general, crafting needs lots of items and tools that actually let you pass through the skill levels by purely crafting, instead of finding something random in the back of a van. Also beforehand, I feel like I should at least mention Life and Living, which is a channel you'll find on the TV playing for the first week or so. If you watch it, you can gain carpentry and various other survival skills. It's one of the most useful things in the game. It's slightly nerfed now that you can only get to level 3 in any skill using it, but level 3 in any skill is still very useful. Let's get into skills. Aiming and reloading. Pretty self-explanatory. The better your skill in aiming, the better shots your character will land. And the better you're reloading, the faster you'll reload. I know, crazy. But you'll still be affected by moodles like panic or stress, which will affect your aim. Taking beta blockers is a good way to bolster your aim during shootouts. And unless you've been living under a rock, you'll probably know that aiming was revamped in Build 42. So now where you aim with the crosshair is where your character will attempt to aim at, instead of just random numbers. On to melee. It's pretty unnecessary to go through each category, but in general, with each level you get in any of the skills, you'll be faster at swinging those kinds of weapons, and you'll have better aim. Which, if you didn't know, in Project Zomboid, even melee weapons have an aim stat. It's influenced by moodles like stress and anxiety, and of course the skill in the weapon that you're trying to use. Better aim means that you'll get more critical hits and higher damage overall. The other stats that influence melee damage are strength, hunger, and weight, but that doesn't really impact aiming whatsoever, although they both contribute to damage output, so in the end it doesn't really matter. Carpentry is the additive manufacturing of wooden furniture and buildings, from as little as nailing some planks to a window, to building expansive bases out of nails and wood. It also affects how much material you get back from deconstructing furniture. As of Build 42, deconstructing furniture no longer gives you XP. Now you have to build to get XP. Although the gain is much faster. If I had to recommend leveling, just build a shed or something next to your house, or build furniture and deconstruct it over and over again, if you want to be bored. Although it's still slightly tedious, it's better than just blindly deconstructing everything in sight. I think it's fun to design extensions or second floor patios on my houses. The hardest part of leveling is getting the first couple levels to be able to build walls and floors. If you can get a copy of woodworking or read some carpentry books, you'll be golden. Carving is a new skill similar to carpentry. It has to do with wood, but instead of adding planks, you're whittling down items to form. Which after you level carpentry a bit, you'll probably have a lot of branches and other wood scrap lying around. All of this can be carved into wooden items of differing usefulness. A good way to grind carving, you can craft a long stick into medium handles, and then those handles into small handles, and then those into spoons and forks. In order to craft lots of useful things like drying racks, you'll need sticks and wooden rods to craft them, so you'll naturally level this skill if you just survive for a while. Plus, at the late levels, it becomes pretty powerful, as you're able to create small and large baseball bats. Do I really need to explain most of these? You know what cooking is. You'll gain cooking XP from adding ingredients to food, and actually cooking the food itself. Although anything that gets cooked counts, so you can just put bugs and dead rats in your stove to farm XP, if that's your kind of thing. If you play multiplayer, you can use the cooking skill to tell if food has been poisoned, but the other players with cooking skill can affect this, so here's a chart if you care. The electrical skill is really more to do with electronics and traps than it has to do with anything else. The only other electrical thing it allows you to do is connect generators at level 3, but you can also read the generator magazine at any level, but it's still a good last resort if you can't find one. It's one of the only skills that you can still gain in Build 42 by dismantling items, although I found it's still best to create items for gaining XP. Fixing generators is pretty good XP for the lower levels if you have a skill book. In my opinion, besides generators, the best thing the electrical skill can do for you is allow you to move washing machines so that you can plumb them, because manually washing clothes sucks. The traps are also good, but that's not really my playstyle. Glassmaking is another new skill. Pretty self-explanatory. The best thing it's useful for is probably making new window panes, or just glass jars and bottles. This is a pretty niche skill. It's really only useful for people in the woods trying to live off the land, as you can get a number of different containers from just the trash cans. You can craft window panes at level 0, but you'll need a ceramic sheet mold, so good luck finding one. However, you can craft a glass blowing pipe with a pottery wheel and a furnace, so maybe start looking out for clay. Knapping is the process of shaping stone to how you see fit, be it an axe or a maul or a stone shelf. This is another niche skill that's really only useful to those living off the land, or if you're missing a particular item. Really, you're just going to be crafting a bunch of stone axes. In order to level it, you gotta knap rocks, which is easier said than done. Finding stones is a major pain in the ass. especially if you don't have a hammer or mace to break large stones apart into smaller stones. If you have a pickaxe, you can also break up some of the stones around the map. Not the largest ones, but the one right below that size. Masonry is kinda like knapping, but with more precise tools, and for the construction of walls, shingles, tiles, and advanced workstations. Brick walls are stronger than wood and metal, but wall health is bugged right now, so wooden and metal walls both have 50 health regardless of the quality. So if you really want to have strong walls, just use masonry, as they're the only walls that have the correct amount of health, which is 500. For me playing Build 42, I found that the first level sucks to get through, which is a common theme for a lot of the new stuff. But once you unlock the recipe for cutting stones into stone blocks, just do that a bunch, which if you've been farming for level 1, you should already have a bunch of stones foraged. Metalworking. Metalworking has been changed since Build 41. Now, instead of having to do with all of the crafting with metal, it's more of shaping and casting metal, with the other stuff going into the welding skill. To level metalworking, you'll need to level masonry and pottery to build a furnace and make clay molds. You can find ceramic molds in the back of a blacksmith van or in warehouses, but they're pretty rare, so you probably just want to level up those skills in preparation anyways. Metalworking is probably one of the most useful new skills, pretty obviously. You can make new hammers, more nails, some new weaponry and armor, although you need to be pretty high level to start going full Mad Max. Mechanics. Mechanics is repairing vehicles, pretty surprising. The higher your level, the higher the chance of successfully installing a car part. It'll also allow you to work on higher end cars, but this can be bypassed using magazines. Mechanics is one of the most powerful skills in the game. With 2 mechanics and 1 electrical, you can hotwire any car, and being able to maintain your vehicle is a very useful skill when the streets are full of the undead. Leveling mechanics is also easy and straightforward. You can take off and reinstall parts on a car, once a day, per part, per car. If you read some books and just take the lights and batteries out, you'll level up before you know it. And the higher the level you are, the more parts you can take off, and faster, equaling more XP. Pottery is a skill that's mostly supplementary to glassmaking and metalworking, as you'll need to make the molds and crucibles with a pottery wheel and kiln. You can technically find all this stuff in the wild, but good luck. Plus, molds break after one use, so you might want to start grinding pottery, seriously. Leveling up pottery is pretty straightforward. You just forage for clay, or go to a river and dig some up, and then use the pottery wheel. Making pipe segments seems to be the best XP for clay, but they're relatively useless. Tailoring has been updated. Now we have a bunch of clothing items to craft, from making scrap clothing from duct tape and trash bags to sewing fine hide clothing from animal skins. You can also patch clothing or add padding, and the higher your skill in tailoring, the more bonus protection you'll get from each bit of padding. You can stack padded clothing, resulting in pretty good protection, even without any of the new armor. To level up tailoring, you can patch and unpatch clothing, but that got a major nerf in the most recent update. Now it's most efficient to craft new clothing with what you can, but at the lower levels of tailoring, that's pretty difficult. Welding is the old metalworking. It allows you to weld together scrap metal into walls and floors, and basic furniture. And with Build 42, you can now weld together scrap weapons and armor as well, making it a very valuable early game skill. The best way to level it up for the first couple skills would probably be dismantling wrecked cars. You'll see them spawn on highways, mainly, and they're one of the only things that you can dismantle to get XP now. The agriculture skill, which used to be farming, allows you to grow crops in a sustainable way to get more food and various materials. In Build 42, now plants are affected by the temperature and season, so no more growing cabbages in the middle of winter. The higher your skill in agriculture, the more information you can get from crops when you inspect them. Here's another handy chart, straight from the wiki. A higher skill level will also mean your compost, fertilizer, and cures will become more effective. Just like the agriculture skill, the animal care skill will allow you to see more information about animals, and the higher the skill, the less stress an animal will get from being sheared or milked. You'll also get more resources. The butchering skill is skinning, filleting, draining, or cutting the head off of an animal. Pretty metal. The higher your butchering skill, the higher the quality of meat you'll get from harvesting. For all 3 of these skills, the only real way to get XP is by doing them. Agriculture only gives you XP when you actually harvest, but no real way besides skill books and TV to make these go faster. Fitness and strength. The higher the fitness level, the longer you'll be able to run or fight. Pretty simple. The thing you might not know is that it also affects how fast you can swing weapons, how fast you can exercise, and how much damage you take from falls. You can gain fitness XP by exercising, running, or sprinting, and hitting zombies while not fatigued. Strength is also exactly what you'd expect. It increases your raw damage output, how hard you can push zombies over, and how much you can carry, and how successful you are at climbing fences. You level up strength by hitting zombies, carrying more than 50% of your carry capacity, cutting trees, and exercise. There are multiple exercises to do. The dumbbell and the barbell allow you to increase strength much faster, and increasing strength seems to be easier, in my experience, although there are fitness exercises too. The light-footed and sneaking skills are very similar, but don't do exactly the same thing. Light-footed is how much noise you make while walking, running, or walking in a combat stance, and sneaking only affects how quiet you sneak specifically. You gain XP for both of these skills while sneaking around zombies while unseen. If a single zombie spots you, then you get no XP. The easiest way to grind this, in my experience, is to find a tall building on a foggy day that you can get on top of, and just sneak on the top of it. If you're lucky, there will be a horde nearby, and you can just sneak in circles for a couple of in-game hours. The NIMBLE skill determines how fast you go in the combat stance. The higher the level, the higher you'll go. You get XP from being in the combat stance and moving. You don't actually have to be around zombies to gain XP though, so you can safely do this in your base. But also because you have to hold down right click and move, you can't really speed this one up. You wouldn't believe it, the running skill affects how fast you can run. You gain XP by, well, running. The only way to level this one up faster is by taking a trait or installing a mod, so good luck. The first aid skill sounds really useful. It affects how long bandages last, and specifically how fractures heal with first aid. Here's a chart. The problem is, you don't really want to level it up since it requires you to injure yourself. You can climb through a broken window all winter, but is that really worth it just for some little bonuses that they really don't matter all that much in the long run? Fishing, if you didn't know, got an overhaul. Now instead of clicking a menu and waiting for a canned animation to play, you actually play a little mini game. Fishing XP is calculated on the weight of the fish. 7 XP for a large fish, 5 for a medium, and 3 for a small. Foraging. Foraging represents how well you can, forage. You gain the skill from getting items. Generally, the rarer and better the item, the more XP you'll get. Something really interesting I didn't know is that different occupations have different bonuses for foraging. Not just XP-wise, but item-wise. For example, the carpentry profession will find wood from further away, or doctors would find bandages more. Stuff like that. Tracking. The tracking ability allows you to find the prints of animals. In order to actually track, you have to go into the search mode like you would to forage, and set the search to animal tracks. Once you find some, they'll be highlighted in yellow. You get XP by finding different tracks and sneaking near deer or rabbits. The higher your skill, the more information you'll get about the tracks you find, like the animal's weight or how recent the tracks were. The system isn't really done yet and may be changed in the future. And last but not least, the trapping skill affects how well you can create and use animal traps. For example, even putting cheese in a mouse trap counts, and will give you XP. When putting bait in a trap, if it's rotten, it won't work. If you're using fruit or vegetables, they have to be fresh when you put them in. The amount of XP you gain is proportional to the size of the animal in the trap. Skill books are recommended, as always. And, well, that's really it. Those were all the skills, I'm pretty sure. I hope I didn't leave one out. If I did, I'm sure you guys will tell me.